So good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, Happy day that today is. Independence Day. Happy Independence Day, 4th of July. My thought that comes along with this is simply my favorite line from a Christmas movie, because that's appropriate in July. But it sticks with me every year, as corny as it is, that my favorite line from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is, "Let's be independent together." So I think about it every year when we come up against this day, because we call it Independence Day, right? And the independence is sort of dovetailed with the idea of freedom. And in yoga, freedom means that there is an openness for all beings to be exactly as they are, and that there's nothing that is conditioning them to be something less than that. And that if we are living truly in that interconnectedness that is our real reality, is that our efforts, our interactions with each other are those opportunities to uplift all beings, right? So that they can be exactly as they are meant to be. And we're not actually trying to push ourselves or each other to be something less than that. So the concept of freedom and independence is that, yeah, you have your individual, place in the world and the way that you move through it. But if you're always looking at those steps that you take, those words that you use, those thoughts that you think, as a way of holding space for and creating a world, an environment where all beings, including mosquitoes and other insects and fish and birds and people who don't make any sense to you, all of these things are allowed to be exactly as they're meant to be. And there's nothing that we do that causes or tries to condition them to be less, right? If that's what we're doing every day, then we create this experience of freedom independently, but in an interconnected way, right? So come to a comfortable seat if you're not there already. Let the eyes close. And as we practice, right, yoga is an individual practice, but it's an individual practice of recognizing how you are intertwined with all other beings, all other beingness. And so just for a moment, as you breathe, remember that you are breathing the same breath as all other beings. That what you breathe in, that is your own individual experience, you take in and you understand where is there freedom in what I have experienced as me. And then as you exhale that sense of freedom, that sense of completeness, fullness, wholeness back out into the world and say, may you find it too. In your own independent way, may you find it too. And if we're breathing that for each other, then we have a world where all beings are free. So you are breathing the entire world without any of the weight of the world. One more deep breath like that so that you let go of whatever the weight of your individual life is, your individual struggles. Let it go. And breathe out that there is freedom already ready to be found. And the next breath in, pause and hold at the top of the breath so you fill yourself with breath and hold it. When you exhale, you let the breath go, bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. A little open sound of Om, deep breath. Let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. Release your hands, please. Then come forward onto hands and knees. Come into child's pose. Knees nice and wide, big toes together to touch. Let your hips drop back to your heels. Just give yourself a chance to arrive while I give myself a chance to arrive. That's a big one for our practice, right? Is that we have really great concepts, really great ideas. Right? We have the Yoga Sutras, we have the other sacred texts, we have a million forms of meditation and pranayama and mantra. Any form of version of God you can imagine that you can bow to. And the greatest service, it said, is when you instead bow to each other. Walk your torso to the right, please. So you bow to the person who makes you crazy. You bow to the people who are your struggles, your challenges. You bow to the mosquito that bites you. You bow to your dog that wakes you up in the middle of the night. Bring yourself back to center, walk to the left. So you bow to all of these little things, and you realize that by bowing to them is you are bowing to the bigness that is connecting all of us. And what does it mean to bow? It doesn't mean that you become less than. It means you say, I am in service to you as much as I am in service to me. That's okay. Come on in. Welcome. And then bring yourself back to center. Good. One more full breath, remembering that you're breathing not just for you, but you're breathing the breath of all beings. And then walk yourself back up onto hands and knees. Good. Take your right leg back behind you, toes tucked on the floor, then drop that heel to flat. Take the right arm up to the sky. Good. So your right foot is flat on the floor, leg extended, right arm up. Nice. See that you are pulling your left armpit forward over your left wrist. So your side body already, you don't want it to get short. And then press through that baby toe of your right foot. So again, long length on the edge of that thigh. And then a deep breath in, reach up through that right hand a little more. So you're pulling your weight away from the floor. And then as you exhale, wrap that arm in front of your belly, around underneath you, like you're gonna reach back behind your left armpit. So you're reaching underneath you, like you're gonna reach underneath to find your left shoulder blade, curl in. Good, and then release, taking the arm back up to the sky. Inhale, you're keeping that back heel flat the entire time. And then do it again. Exhale, bring the arm around and in, reaching underneath you, curling into your back rib. So it's almost like a sideways cat-cow. And then take the arm back up to the sky. Good, and one more time, exhale, wrap it around in front of you, really pulling into the back rib cage. Really good, and then take that arm back up to the sky. Beautiful. Reach that arm over the ear, please. So you're extending over the crown of the head. And then bend the elbow so the hand comes first to the back of the head, and then press your head back into your hand so you have the strength of your neck, connection to your neck. Good. And then keep your head there, but slide your hand down your neck towards the back of your heart. So the tip of your elbow is going to point towards the top of your head. So instead of up towards the sky, it's pointing towards the top of your head. And then press the back of your heart into your hand and try and spiral your armpit open a little more. Good. Stretch through the tip of that elbow so you're lengthening the arm. Beautiful. And then slowly release, please. Come all the way back to hands and knees. Do a little bit of cat and cow, inhaling the chest forward, tail up, exhaling, curling and rounding. Nice, you guys. Good. We're asked often in yoga to be in a place of service. It says when you're confused about what to do with your life, find someone, something to serve. And it's a great suggestion. But if we're serving out of a sense of obligation or thinking that it's going to make us feel better, we're going to get stuck in that. And if we think of service as meaning that someone or something is more important than us, we're going to get stuck in that too. So as you're breathing, remember that your breath is a service. Your thoughts are a service. The way that you hold the importance of other beings, we call this ahimsa. Good. The way that you hold that importance is what helps to create a world in which all of the interactions allow every being to be exactly as they are intended to be, meant to be. No one, nothing is conditioned to be less. Good. Come back to stillness, please. Stretch your left leg back behind you, toes tucked on the floor. Drop the heel, and then take the left arm up to the sky. Good. So again, you want to feel that you are distributing your weight through that right shin. So if your knee is angled back behind your hip, it's going to be harder to do. So if you need to move that knee slightly forward, move it forward. And then slide that right armpit forward so it's on top of your right wrist. So already you got to pull that under side body a little bit longer. Nice, Jessica. Good. And then a deep breath in, reaching through the left fingertips. So pull your weight up away from the floor. And then as you exhale, wrap the arm around in front of you, reaching underneath the right armpit, curl into your ribs. You should feel this potentially all the way down to that outer hip. And then take the arm back up to the sky, keeping that heel flat the entire time. Good. Wrap it around in front of you again. Exhaling, curling into your ribs. So try not to just lean forward. Try to keep your shoulder over your arm, over your wrist. Good. Take the left arm up one more time. Yeah, opening through the chest. And then last time, bring the arm forward and under, squeeze, round into your ribs. Again, a sideways cat-cow. Good, and then stretch that arm all the way back up to the sky. Nice. Take the arm over the ear so you're reaching towards the top of your mat. Good. Press out through that left baby toe. Good. And then bend the elbow. Place the hand first behind your head. So if you're dropping your head, you got to lift it up in line with your spine. Good. And then press the head back into your hand so your chin drops towards your chest and you press your head back. Good. And then keep your head there, but slide the hand down your neck more towards the back of your heart between your shoulder blades, as far as it'll go. So the tip of your elbow points more towards the top of your mat. Good. And then press the heart into the back of or into your hand. And then really lean through that armpit, lean through that elbow. So you're stretching the whole side of the arm into the shoulder. Good. And then unwind, please. Take that arm all the way back up. Release it down to the floor, hands and knees. Nice. And then bring yourself back to downward facing dog. Tuck your toes, lift your hips. Good. Bend your knees a lot, please. As your knees are bent a lot, you can drop your hips a little bit more, pull back through the hips a little bit more. Good. And then cat-cow your spine. So your knees are bent. Move your upper back. Good. Right. How you internalize the teachings of yoga is what matters, not how you perform them. So you can have the perfect meditation stance. You can pronounce a mantra perfectly. No flaws in your breathing. But if in your mind you're still existing in a world where some beings are important and some beings aren't, you're going to get stuck in that. So what frees us is that state of openness where we really do hold all beings interconnected. We see them in ourselves and ourselves in them. Good. Let the spine come to neutral. Stretch the legs to straight, maybe lifting up onto your balls of your feet for a breath, and then softening the heels down towards the floor. Nice, Ralph. Good. Right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Step that foot forward between the hands, lunge. And then step your left foot a little wider to the left. Drop the heel to 45 degrees. Warrior one, so hips face straight ahead. Inhale, both arms up to the sky. Good. And then straighten your front knee for a moment. So you straighten both legs, interlace your fingers, press your heels of the hands up towards the sky. Good. Pull up through your side waist. So you're drawing those hip points up towards the sky, pulling up through your ribs. Good. And then keep that lift through the side body, through the arms. Bend your right knee again back into warrior one. Good. Trying not to let that arch come into your lower back. So do it one more time. Straighten the leg, pull up as much as you can. Hip points up, low belly in. Good. And then again, staying long, bend the knee, widening the thighs, letting yourself come into warrior one. Really good, Susan. Good, Rhonda. Nice, Mia. Turn that left hip forward just a tiny bit more. Good. And then release your hands from overhead, please. Take your hands back behind you. So not interlacing the fingers, just reaching back behind you. Lean your torso forward, parallel to the floor. And then lift those arms up as though you've got a block that you're squeezing between them. Squeeze the hands towards each other. So palms towards each other and squeeze. So this is just to get into that engagement of your arms and shoulders. Don't let your chest drop lower than your hips. So stay parallel to the floor, scoop that low belly, squeeze your feet together. Good. So it's a long spine, but squeeze those arms and then lift your hands maybe a tiny bit higher. Yep. Good, Meredith. Good. And then release the hands to the floor, please. Spin your back heel up. Good. Lengthen your lunge if you need. Left hand plants, right arm to the sky, spinal twist. Good. Keeping that front knee over the front ankle. So you've got that little bit of a scoop that happens through your right sit bone, but then your left inner thigh goes higher. Beautiful. Release that hand down to the floor, please. Good. Drop the back knee. Use a blanket there if you'd like. Inhale, both arms to the sky, Anjaneyasana. Good. Squeezing the front heel and the back knee towards each other, heart to the sky. Nice, Allison. Watch that that front knee doesn't fall open. So actually move your right foot wider to the right. Fine. Good. And then release the hands down to the floor, please. Beautiful. Both hands inside the front foot. Bring that right shoulder inside your right knee and then slide that hand behind your heel to come to the baby toe edge of your foot. So you're wrapping your forearm behind your calf. Good. So you should feel like the upper arm is pressing against the back of your calf. There you go. Bend the elbows just a little bit. Chest gets wider and then push forward with the upper body. So you're leaning forward, chest open. Good. And then either stay here or start to lift the back knee off of the floor. and pull your hips up and back as though you're trying to bring them into a down dog. Good. So you have that forward action with the arms, with the chest, and you've got that backwards action with the hips. Good. Don't drop your head, please. Keep your head lifted. There you go. Nice, Rachel. Beautiful. One more breath here. Maybe stretch your arms out wide. So no hands, just your legs hold you and arms go wide like airplane arms. Beautiful. And if you've really got that and you want to go for the bind, go ahead and bend your elbows, wrap that right arm around your thigh and reach your hands back behind you. Nice, Allison. Good. And then slowly release the arms, please. Nice, Jessica. Good. Unwind everything. Step back, downward facing dog. This is Sarah. If you need to do a little cat-cow, warm yourself up first. Okay. Slide forward, plank pose, upward push up. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Rise up, cobra. Just had one more person make their way into the studio. She says she walked 5 blocks. Downward facing dog. Again, this is how we separate the truly dedicated yogis. Good. Left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Step the foot forward between the hands, lunge. Good. Right foot steps just a little wider to the right. Drop the heel to 45 degrees. Warrior 1. Good. Arms up to the sky, hips facing straight ahead. Beautiful. So really check out here if your hip points are facing straight ahead, because we kind of have this thought in Warrior 1 that that's what's supposed to be happening. But when it's not happening at all, we just sort of give up and say, well, it's just not going to happen. So try stepping your foot wider to the right if your hips are still turning sideways a lot. Right? Because you do want to try and find that forward square position of your hips so that that back thigh has this spiraling action going on, right? That's how you get the stretch through the thigh and through the ankle and everywhere else. So really pay attention to your pelvis. And then arms up, interlace your fingers, press the heels of the hands up to the sky, straighten the front thigh for a moment. Good. So you pull everything in and up, squeeze your feet, lift up through the low place of your belly. Stay lifted and then bend the front knee again, back to Warrior 1. Try not to let your ribs fall forward. Good. And then one more time, straighten the front thigh. Again, pull everything in and up, get taller, more vertical. And then bend the knee again, coming back towards that Warrior 1. Yeah. Good. And then release the hands, please. Reach the arms back behind you. Lean forward. Torso parallels the floor. And again, the arms reach up, but you're not clasping your hands. You're just squeezing your hands towards each other as though there's an imaginary block between them. So you should still feel a lot of energy happening in your upper arms and your shoulders. Good, but you don't have that physical resistance to blame it on, right? So lift your hands a little higher. Good, and then squeeze, right? Feel the squeeze from your armpits. Feel the squeeze from your back. I bet you usually don't feel this when you have your hands clasped. One more breath, reach out long. Good. And then release the hands, please, down to the floor. Spin your back heel up. Lengthen your lunge a little bit if you need to. Right hand stays where it is. Left arm comes to the sky, spinal twist. So Anju, just turn your back heel up towards the ceiling so you're on the ball of your back foot. Yes, bring the hands back down to the floor. Good, just lift your back heel. There you go. Now turn the hip forward, other way, heel up, toes down. There you go, left arm to the sky. Good, you guys. And then release that hand down to the floor. Good, drop the back knee, please use a blanket if you need. Inhale the arms to the sky, Anjaneyasana. Yeah, as always, if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense to you, just do what you're doing. As long as you're breathing in a conscious way, you're doing great. Good. One more deep breath. Really lift long, 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 long. Yeah. Nice, Juliet. Nice, Lena. Release the hands down to the floor, please. Good. Both hands inside the front foot. Take that left shoulder up inside your left knee. Slide the hand behind the heel to the baby toe edge of your foot. So you're wrapping the forearm around the back of your calf. And then your elbows bend just a little bit so your chest gets wide and your arms sort of anchor into your upper chest, into your upper back. And then you're leaning forward, again, as though you're trying to go into like a chaturanga, you're pushing forward. And then lift your back knee up if you'd like, and start to take your hips up and back as though they're going into down dog. Good, so you have the forward action, the backwards action. Good, don't drop your head. So keep your head lifted, chest nice and wide. So you get this real feeling of opening through the upper back because you have the resistance of the leg. Good, and then maybe this is fine. This is enough, you stay where you are. If you wanna go for that arms wide variation, squeeze the feet towards each other, kick that back thigh higher, stretch your arms out straight. Nice, Heidi. Good. And then maybe you wrap your arms into that bind where the left arm wraps around the left thigh and the right hand reaches back behind you. Nice, Melody. Good. And then unwind the arms, please. Hands to the floor, downward facing dog. The words some of you have been waiting for, downward facing dog. Good. Deep breath in. And then drop down to the knees, please. Child's pose, knees wide, big toes together to touch. Drop hips back to your heels. Drop your forehead to the floor. And let your heart bow to something, someone. It doesn't matter what you choose as your form. Yoga says this all the time, is that the form that you choose, whether it's God or it's another being to be in service to, makes no difference. What matters is that it opens up the space in you that is willing to hold other beings as equal to you. That it puts you in the position of feeling yourself interconnected, intertwined with the state of those beings. Walk your torso to the right, belly over the right thigh. Good. And then walk yourself back to center and move yourself to the left. You're finding your breath, let yourself arrive. Come back to center. Where do we arrive to? We arrive back to a place where we are not in conflict with ourselves or with the world. Where there may be challenges in the world, but we are not in conflict. We understand our independent work, our independent place, and we understand our interconnectedness. We breathe not just for ourselves, we breathe for each other. When you're struggling, I'll breathe for you. When I'm struggling, you breathe for me. And not to take the work away, but to just bring ease back into the experience so that you find your way, I'll find my way. Neither one of us ever has to be less. Walk yourself all the way back up to hands and knees. Good. Take your right arm out wide to the right. Slide that arm behind your left wrist. Right shoulder finds the floor. So you're threading the needle. Turn your gaze to the left. Good. And then walk that left arm forward towards the top of your mat. Nice. Pressing through the shins. So again, if your feet are flying up off the floor here, press down. Good. Even if your feet aren't flying up, press down. Good. And then press into that right arm, the arm that's on the floor. So as you press into that arm, you maybe feel that your side waist or your side ribs or your armpit presses away from the floor just a little bit. So as you push down, you get more space to open. Good. And then bring yourself all the way back up to hands and knees, please. Nice. Go to the other side. Take your left arm out and wide. And slide that arm behind the right wrist. Left shoulder finds the floor. Turn the gaze. Walking left arm forward any amount. Good. And you, of course, you can keep that elbow bent, right? Having the elbow bent sometimes gives you a lot more access to what your shoulder is doing. So don't obsess about it having to be a straight arm. You're just finding the position where there's an openness through that outer armpit. Nice, Lisa. Good, Andra. And then pressing through that left arm, the arm that's on the floor, press into it just a little bit. So it's like you're pulling your left side chest up off of that arm. You're actually decompressing, making space. Good. Maybe changes your mind about how you usually do this pose, which is collapse everything into the floor. Don't worry, it's a natural tendency. We get close to the floor, we start dropping everything. The floor is the resistance that's meant to help you uplift, to open. Good. Walk yourself back up to hands and knees. So if we don't use what we're given, right, in a conscious way, then we stay stuck. We do all the right poses, but we stay stuck. Downward facing dog. Same thing with our inner, more esoteric work, if you want to put it that way, our emotional work. We do all the right things, but our mentality doesn't change. Our feelings don't open. We don't become vulnerable. We stay stuck. Deep breath in. So our individual work is noticing all of the really fun ways we keep ourselves stuck. And then doing what we can to come back to that state of openness. And when we do that, then we start to create a world where it is open, not just for us, but for all beings. Right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good, bring that knee forward in wide pigeon pose, knee towards your right wrist. Good. Sliding the left leg back just a little bit. Come vertical for a second, so you can even have blocks underneath your hands if you'd like, but press down through that front shin. Squeeze the legs towards each other. You can have the back toes tucked under. And then maybe one hand or both comes to the sky, so you find that true feeling of pulling up through the inner self. Good. Nice, Elisa. You got it. Good, Carla. You got it. Yeah. Throw your hands in the air. Good. Release the hands back down to the floor. Don't get too crazy. Walk your hands forward, please, but stay up on your fingertips. So before you get comfortable, start to walk your hands towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat. So you're leaning far forward, but then you're walking to the right. Good. So again, you're stretching that side body. Keep your ribs turned towards the floor. Don't let that left hip fly open. Keep it pointing towards the floor. Good. I know it's not comfortable. Good. Probably feels good in a bizarre way. Walk yourself back to center, please. Move to the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Say one of the traps in yoga is thinking that by doing the practice, you're going to get somewhere. So we say all the time, if you think you're going to get somewhere just by practicing, that itself will become an obstacle. But if we know that 99% of what we're doing with our practice is just discovering the ways that we keep ourselves stuck, then something will open up. Come on back to center, please. Good. Now you can come to rest on your elbows, blocks, forearms. Cats, dogs, children, whatever you use. And again, with that sense of bowing. So you're not collapsing into the floor, but you are placing yourself in service to this body, this mind, this moment. And letting yourself be in that vulnerable state of feeling. We don't usually think of muscular opening as that experience, but it can be. By becoming comfortable with uncomfortable sensations, as we allow for our uncomfortable sensations internally, mentally, emotionally, to be livable. And if those things are livable without us pushing them away, hiding them, then we stop acting in a way that is avoiding. We become more open. The Buddhists say you start to feel like you're naked in the world. No protection, nothing that you do that avoids. And that's our avoidance that tends to limit ourselves and limits others. So the more naked you become in this metaphorical sense, the more vulnerable you are willing to be, the more realistic freedom becomes for you and for everyone. Good. Walk your hands back in, please. You come back up onto your hands. Tuck your back toes just for a moment. Lift just your back knee up so your front knee is still exactly where it is. Lift just the back knee. Good. So you're getting an extra little stretch through that left thigh. Nice. Beautiful. And then press into your hands, please. Take that right leg all the way up and back, down dog split. Nice. With the leg straight up and back behind you, turn the hip. So take the right hip on top of the left with a straight leg. Good. So Jen, just straighten that leg. There you go. So you're pressing out through the heel, nice and long. Good. Ralph, flex that foot. Pull your hips up a little more. That's it. Good. And then scoop your belly, point your toes back down towards the floor. Beautiful. And then release that foot down, downward facing dog. Awesome. Slide forward to plank pose, upward push up. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Good. Inhale, rise up, cobra, pointing the toes back behind you. Beautiful. And then come back, downward facing dog, tuck the toes, lift the hips. Nice. And then take the left leg up and back, down dog split. Good. Bring that knee forward and wide, pigeon pose. Knee goes towards the left wrist. Good. Place the shin consciously. Let that right knee come down towards the floor. Good. And then again, you are walking yourself forward. So stay vertical for a breath, right? Really work through that feeling of pressing into the front shin, squeezing in. Maybe take one hand or both away from the floor. Good. You got it, Lisa. Just really pull up through your side waist. Good, Anne. Nice, Beth. Nice, Andra. Good. Release the hands to the floor, please. Start to walk yourself forward. But again, don't get comfortable straight ahead. I want you to walk towards that upper left-hand corner of your mat. Good. So get low with your torso, but then walk on that diagonal. So again, you're stretching through that outer side body. You're stretching through the outer hip. Nice. You're feeling what there is to be felt. Maybe now focusing on allowing feeling to come unobstructed. Right? I know in my own mind is that I have the little moment where I'm in an uncomfortable pose or a pose that I know is going to be uncomfortable, and I acknowledge that it's uncomfortable, and then I let my mind go somewhere else. I avoid the discomfort. So that's not what we're talking about with allowing. We're talking about not moving your attention away, right? Is let it stay there, not hyper focused, but just steady. Walk yourself back to center and then move to the upper right-hand corner of your mat, stretching the side body the other way. So that becomes a practice in itself, right? Actually not moving away from discomfort. So sometimes we say it's moving towards it, but it doesn't have to be. It can be just noticing how you keep yourself stuck, how you put that little wall between the part of your mind that feels the sensation and the part of your mind that is avoiding the sensation. You're just noticing those things. And we're all really, really good at it. We've had lifetimes of discovering how to keep ourselves stuck. So don't worry about it. But just become aware that these are the fun tricks that you do. And then see if just even for a breath or two, you can stay with that discomfort, live with it without obstruction. Become vulnerable, become open. And if that wall needs to come back up, let it come back up. Right? Your practice is not meant to torture you. Walk yourself back to center. Good. Now you can come to rest however you'd like, straight ahead, elbows, blocks. I know you just want to be done with pigeon. You're not. You're never done with pigeon. If you're on your back, continue to enjoy pigeon on your back. If suddenly you're like, oh, pigeon on my back was an option, too late. Find yourself, even for a breath here, letting your sit bones move back and down towards the floor. Instead of letting your weight roll forward, move everything back. I know. Suddenly you feel something. Good. And then walk yourself back up onto your hands, please. So pressing into the hands, tuck the back toes, lift just the back knee. So you're still in pigeon with that front leg, but you're lifting the back knee up. Good. And trying to get as vertical as you can with your pelvis. So again, it's almost like you're doing a bizarre pigeon Anjaneyasana. So lift your chest. There you go. Beautiful. And then press into those hands, lift your hips, send your left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Flex the foot, keep the legs straight, stack the left hip on top of the right. Nice. Reaching out, reaching out, reaching out. Good. And then scoop your belly, turn your toes down towards the floor. So you're back to that down dog split. Beautiful. And then release the foot back down to downward facing dog. Awesome. Slide forward to plank pose. Good. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Beautiful. Bend both knees before you come into cobra on your belly. Bend both knees, kick your heels in, press down through the tops of your thighs, and then press into your hands, rise up cobra with bent knees. Good. So you're pressing down through that lower edge of the thigh is really how I should say it. And the front of your thighs are drawing forward and up. So those pelvic bones are lifting away from the floor. Good. Nice, Sarah. Really good. One more breath, chest wide, like you're going to pull your heart between your hands. Nice, Andra. Nice, Lisa. Good. And then slowly release, please. Nice job. Press back up onto hands and knees. Come back, child's pose, knees wide. Again, dropping the head, letting the heart bow to something. As your breath starts to slow from its desperateness, exertion. Remember that you're breathing with the thought that all beings are able to find their way, right? We have the mantra, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, may all beings be happy, be peaceful, be free from suffering. And may my life, my efforts be a part of that. May the way I live be part of what creates a world where you, all of the yous, are able to be exactly as you are meant to be and never anything less. May my efforts be something that uplifts you, that helps you find your freedom, even as I'm finding my own. And if you can do that, really internalize that, it doesn't matter what else you do, because that is the practice, is to be in that state. Walk yourself back up onto hands and knees, and then to be able to maintain it when other beings make you crazy. It's the caveat, right? Downward facing dog, tuck your toes, lift your hips. Good. Right foot steps forward between the hands, please, lunge. Good, drop the back heel, baby toe parallels back of your mat. Cartwheel the arms up, warrior two. Good, so you find your warrior two. Nice. And then straighten your front thigh as though you were going to come into triangle. You're not, so just straighten the front thigh, squeeze your feet towards each other, lift up taller, stretch your arms up to the sky. Good, pull up through your side waist. Nice. Now already here, start to rotate that top thigh, that right thigh slightly outward. So you're pointing your knee towards your second toe. You got it. Yep. Yeah. And now bend that knee over the ankle, come into warrior two, letting the arms come wide. I'm just curious, do you like this warrior two better than the first one you came into? Yes. The answer is going to be almost 100% yes. Right forearm onto your front thigh, left arm over the ear. There's a reason for that. I want you to think about it. Good, side angle. Either stay here or go for any version of a bind that you would like. So if you'd like to drop that right hand down to the floor, you can go for that. You can wrap that right shoulder inside your knee, slide that arm underneath the thigh. Left hand turns back and reaches around to find your fingers, or you can use a strap. You can also just work with the top arm if that's where you're at. Nice, Mia. Nice, Rhonda. Good, Jessica. Nice, Susan. Really good, Allison. Good use of strap, other Allison. Awesome. Unwind yourself, please. Beautiful. Release both hands down to the floor. Good. Walk to the inside of that front foot. Walk to your left until you come to the center of your mat. Take the legs to straight. Prasarita Padottanasana. Wide-legged forward fold. I know. Feel your feet. The wideness of your feet. Spread your toes. Good, nice Heidi. Nice Lisa. Good Anju. I know, one more breath. Allowing yourself to arrive. And then take your hands to your hips, please. Come all the way up to stand. Good. Stretch your arms out wide, letter T. Turn your right toes back towards the top of your mat. Good. Again, with the legs straight, squeeze the feet towards each other, pull up through your side waist. Start to rotate that right thigh outward slightly so that your knee is pointing towards your second toe, but keep your legs straight. I know it's an awkward feeling, but I want you to really get comfortable with this thought of, oh, I can actually rotate my thigh. Good. And now maintain that. Stretch that right rib cage forward for Trikonasana, triangle pose. So extend, but keep lifting your right hip point up as high as you can and try and maintain that feeling of rotating your thigh a little bit wide. Good. Once you've reached as far as you can, let that right hand touch down. Nice, Carla. Left arm to the sky. Good, Heidi. Good. And again, that right hand can be resting wherever it needs to. Nice, Beth. Good. Lisa, just keep that right hip point lifted a little higher and then turn your ribs open a little more. That's it. Nice, Anne. Good, you guys. Breathing wide through the chest. Jen, bring that left wrist a little bit more forward towards the top of your head. There you go. Good. I know. One more breath. Good. Bend the right knee. Release the hands to the floor. Downward facing dog. That's funny. We don't usually hold triangle for very long, do we? Good. Vinyasa if you'd like. Child's pose if you prefer. So your choice of either moving through plank pose, lowering down chaturanga, or to your belly, coming into cobra or upward facing dog. Good. And finding your way back downward facing dog, or finding your child's pose, and then meeting us back in down dog. Good. Nice, you guys. Left foot finds its way forward between the hands, lunge. Drop the back heel, baby toe parallels back of your mat. So I know you've been thinking hard about why these warrior twos are different, right? So cartwheel the arms up to warrior two. Good. So it's not a bad warrior two, right? It's one that you're pretty used to. And then straighten your front thigh. So come out of what you're used to. And then squeeze your feet towards each other. Take your arms up to the sky. Pull up long through your side body. Actually find the full length of your spine. Decompress the thighs and the hips. Pull up. Good. And then that subtle widening, that subtle rotation of your front thigh, just a little bit towards the baby toe, a little bit outward. And then start to bend your knee, coming into the warrior two position, stretching your arms out wide. Good. So why do you like this one better? Because you came into it from an open place, right? It's a harder transition when we come from the floor. We're coming from a closed place. We're coming from a place that's already challenged. So this is our yoga practice, right? It's find openness first. And all of these incredibly difficult concepts are way easier to live with, manage, understand. Left forearm onto front thigh, right arm over the ear, side angle. Good. This is where we say everything really does happen on your mat, right? You can understand everything through asana if you're paying attention. Good. And then any version of a bind here that you'd like, or none at all. If you like where you are, stay. But you can bring that left hand down to the floor. You can take your right arm back behind you, just that top arm. If you're bringing that left shoulder inside the left knee, you can slide that arm around underneath your thigh. You can use a strap here to hold the hands if necessary. Good. And it's an open rib cage. So that back thigh is lifting high. Nice, Lisa. Just don't let that front knee fall open. Try to keep it forward just a little bit. Nice, Andra. Good, Anne. Good. And don't bind if it's hurting you, please. Excellent. Unwind your arms, please. Release the hands down to the floor. Both hands inside the front foot. Walk to your right. Come back to the center of your mat. Turn the toes. Prasarita Padottanasana. Wide legs. Good. If you'd like to walk your hands forward into a long downward facing dog, you're welcome to do that. Nice. And again, if hands underneath your shoulders is what feels good, keep them there. Good, Allison. Both Allisons. Letting yourself arrive, right? And gentle inversion. Good. And then walk your hands back in, please. Take your hands to your hips. Come all the way up to stand. Good. Turn your left toes back towards the top of your mat. And then keeping both legs straight. Again, you're squeezing the feet towards each other. Stretch your arms out wide, letter T. Good. Feel yourself getting nice and engaged through the legs. So again, lengthening up through your side waist. Beautiful. And then that subtle rotation of that front thigh. So again, don't overdo it. If you overdo it, you're going to start clenching your outer hip and thigh, and you're going to, spasm, and it's not going to be fun at all. So it's a subtle rotation, and the legs stay straight. And then keeping that left hip point as lifted as you can, start to extend your rib cage forward. So reach, but as though you're reaching up over something. So don't automatically shove your right hip back, but instead lift and lengthen forward. Good. And then when you've gone as far as you can, let that left hand touch down, right arm to the sky. Really nice, Jessica. Good, Rhonda. Nice, Mia. Good, Susan. Nice, Meredith. Nice, Carla. Good, Melody. Beautiful, Heidi. Not too shabby people in the room. Good. I know, find your breath. It's not the easiest pose to just hang out in. Good. I know. And then bend that right knee, please. Release the hands down to the floor. Spin your back heel up, step back, downward facing dog. I am well aware I would not, normally willingly choose to hang out in triangle pose. If there was one pose that was like, oh, what pose do you want to hang out in for a really long time? It's not triangle. Come forward to plank pose. Lower down slow to your belly. Good. Stretch your arms back, reaching towards your feet, palms facing down. Locust pose, so legs are straight. So don't reach for your feet, just reaching in the direction of your feet. Pressing through the front of your pelvis, float your legs up off the floor, lift head, neck, and chest, float the arms up as well. And then take your arms a little wider right and left so you have more space for your shoulders to expand. Good. And then try to feel that you're pulling your armpits towards the top of your mat, but you're tugging your ankles to the back of your mat. Good. And your low rib cage is moving up away from the floor. Really good, Andra. Good. Nice. One more breath. Just remind yourself that breathing here is possible. And then release, please. Make a pillow with your hands or turn one cheek to the side. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. The word loka means world. So we translate it to mean all beings, but it also can be interpreted as may the entire world, may the beingness of the world come to a state that is peaceful, where there is happiness, and where there is freedom from suffering, where there is no one and nothing that is being conditioned to be less. And may the way I live contribute to that creation of that world, the sustaining of that world, and dissolving whatever does not make sense in that world. I breathe for me and I breathe for you. We are independent together. And as long as I never get into that thought process, or I don't stay in that thought process that I am independent, which means separate from you, then whatever else I do will continue to move in that direction of openness and service. And it's not a hardship. Turn your cheek to the other side if you have the cheek turned. And that's a big thing. If your practice is a hardship and you feel good about it because it's a hardship, because it's hard work, watch that place in your mind that wants to create hard work for you, just so you can feel good about it. We can get stuck in that. One more full breath, letting the edges of the mind get wider, edges of the breath get wider. Good. Then walk yourself back up onto your forearms, come into Sphinx pose, so elbows underneath the shoulders. Good. And you can either stay here, right, pressing down into the hands, lifting the chest up, or you can interlace your fingers, make a little cup with your hands, so your choice. So it's a little bit softer on the shoulders to do that. And then tuck your toes, please. Look towards your belly button. Start to pull your rib cage in and up, and then lift your knees up off the floor so you come into a forearm plank. Good. So again, sometimes if your shoulders are tight, or all the time if your shoulders are tight, that hand position makes a difference. So press down into the length of your forearms. Good. Nice. And then you can lift the back of your throat again if you're still looking towards your ribs. Nice job. And then start to walk your feet forward, take your hips to the sky, any amount. Good. You can let the head drop there if you'd like, but pressing into the forearms so that you have, again, pushing into that resistance to lift your armpits up. Good. And then feel that widening of your upper arms, like you're actually pushing your upper arms wide and drawing your shoulder blades towards your hips. And then maybe if it's available, you look towards your fingers. If that feels like strain on your neck, drop the head again. If you can look forward, do it. And then take one leg up to the sky. Good. And then release that leg, take the other leg up. Stay with your breath, still pushing the floor away. Good. And then release that foot. One more deep breath, lifting through the hips. Beautiful. And then drop the knees to the floor, please. Press back child's pose, or reaching back to hold your ankles if that feels like it's more of a release for the shoulders. I was very tempted for some of you who are pretty comfortable in that position to have you do a little kick up towards forearm balance, but you know, don't want to push my luck. So you're breathing everything that you learn about freedom and compassion and understanding. You're in your own individual way. You're breathing that in, but then you're breathing out the bigness of that. So that for all beings that are struggling in whatever ways they are struggling, because we don't get to define someone else's suffering for them, what is or is not suffering. In whatever ways they are struggling, that they find ease, that they find their way. Walk yourself all the way back up, please. Good. Come to sit on your butt. Take your legs out wide. I have to remind myself once this class is over. I'll just keep you all day. You'll have no choice. Some of you might not have a choice. There's a parade going on. Legs wide. Good. Start to turn your belly towards that right thigh, please. So one hand on either side of the leg, and then walk yourself straight ahead, forward fold. Yeah, so over the right thigh, Susan. Yeah, so you're walking forward over the right thigh. That's it. Good. Watch that you're not pushing your knees to the floor here. Nice. Keep your feet awake. Good. Lena, turn those left toes up just a little bit more. They're falling. There you go. Excellent, you guys. And then bring both hands to the inside of that right shin. Good. Right hand can stay where it is, or right forearm can even drop towards the floor. Take your left hand to your left side ribs. So place the hand higher up on the ribs, not at the hip, but higher up. Good. And then round into your rib cage for a second. Push that left rib cage up into your hands, round. Good. And then press down through your top of your left thigh as you do that. Nice. Now try and keep that feeling of openness and slide that right side rib cage a little longer over your right thigh again. Good. And now go ahead and stretch the left arm over the ear if you'd like, or keep it where it is, or bring the hand behind your head. Good. Watch that your ribs are not arcing forward, that you're actually drawing the front rib cage in, wide upper back. Beautiful. Keep that left top thigh pressing down. Good, Sarah. Beautiful. And then release that left hand back down to the floor. Walk yourself into the center. So walk yourself into that forward fold between the legs. Good. And then slowly walk yourself all the way back up. Nice. For a moment, take your hands back behind your hips. So you're pressing into the floor, get your chest taller. Good. As your chest gets taller, so it's not a back bend, it's not so much of an arch, right? But with your hands behind you, you push into the floor, you get a little bit of a lift through your side waist and pull your low rib cage in. Good. Nice. And then remember that feeling as you start to turn towards the left, both hands on either side of that left leg. Walk yourself forward, keeping your right thigh rooting down to the floor. Good. So you really are turning the waist here. You're turning from the low part of your waistline to make this happen. Again, helps open up side body when we're not just focused on the area of the ribs, but we're focused on that outer hip area too. Side waist, all the way down to your pelvis. Nice, you guys. So in all the little ways that you find yourself staying stuck, don't get mad about it. Don't get upset about it. Don't bother judging it. Just notice. Applaud how brilliantly you have learned to stay stuck. And also recognize that once you know that you are doing things to stay stuck, that it means that there are ways for you to become unstuck, to become open. And that's all the practice is intended to do. Every mantra, every breathing practice, every form of meditation is simply meant to help you discover what that open, vulnerable feeling feels like, so that you'll just stay eventually. And by staying, you help to create automatically a world where other beings are allowed to be what they are meant to be. And you are allowed to be what you are meant to be. You're independent together. You've got to find it your way. I can't do it for you. Both hands to the inside of the front shin. Good. Again, you can keep that left hand where it is or drop down onto the forearm if that's available. Bring your right hand to your right rib cage. So again, higher up on the ribs, side ribs. Good. So you want it to be on the side of your waist, not the front of your ribs. And then arc your ribs up into that hand. So you're curling through that right side body. Good. Jen, just bring your head back a little bit more. Good. So you're curling, curling, curling. So you feel that openness, press down through that right butt cheek, and then start to extend your left rib cage, lower rib cage, a little longer over your left thigh. Good, without dropping that right rib cage. Good. And then from there, take that right arm over the ear or behind your head or whatever you're doing with it. Nice, Lisa, I like that. Good, Beth. Nice, Anne. Good, stretch out through those fingertips, maybe a little more, Lisa. There you go, yep. Nice, you guys try not to arch the ribs forward, even though it doesn't seem like it, that's you trying to escape. Trying to escape that side hip, side waist that's very tight, lower back that's tight. Don't escape. Good, nice, Rhonda. Come all the way back up, please. Beautiful. And then one more time, so you can either walk your hands forward into that forward fold or reach for your ankles and let yourself slowly descend into that forward fold without your hands, so your choice. And of course, you can walk yourself forward first and then reach for your ankles if that feels like it's safer. Don't face plant. Keep your sit bones pressing down to the floor. Keep your shoulders open, whatever position you're in. Chest wide. And Sarah, rotate your feet in just a tiny bit more. There you go. And then it's a widening of your thighs. It's squeeze in of your feet. That's it. Good. Nice, Allison. Both Allisons. Awesome, you guys. Slowly walk yourself all the way back up. Really good. Bring the legs together. Turn yourselves around if you're in the room and come onto your backs. If you are at home, lay down on your back, whatever direction you feel like. Good. And again, it's not a requirement if you're in the room to turn around, but it's a thing that we do. So again, you're pointing your head at each other instead of your feet. Good. And then bend your knees, please. If you have a block, lift your hips, place a block underneath your seat for a supported bridge pose. If you don't have a block, you can bring yourself into bridge. Maybe hold for a few breaths and then come down, or let your hips rest on the floor in constructive rest. So again, either option. And your arms, let them be spacious so they don't have to stay close to your side ribs. They can go a little wider. You can take your arms overhead if you'd like, holding opposite wrists or elbows. Good. Nice. And again, if you're holding bridge without a block, make sure you come down when you need to. If you are in constructive rest with your hips on the floor, excellent. Just continue to breathe deeply. Good. Like you are breathing a collective breath. The breath reminds us that we are interconnected in a way that is undeniable and unavoidable. So if you link that breath with a feeling of well-being, a feeling of a desire for freedom, not just for you, but for all. And that's what you're breathing in, and that's what you're breathing out day after day. And that's what other beings are breathing in. And we know that this has an effect, right? The way that we think and the thoughts that we send towards each other, at each other, about ourselves. We know it has an effect. We are independent together, that it is through your breath that that world where all beings are at peace, find happiness and are free from suffering. It's through you that it happens or doesn't happen. You hear that mantra, chant that mantra, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Bow my head, I bow my heart in service to the world itself, the beingness of the world. So that my efforts, my living contributes to a world where all beings are exactly as they are meant to be. No one, nothing is conditioned to be less, including and especially myself. So I will acknowledge all the ways that I keep myself stuck and start to dissolve that. And as I become more free, you become more free. And if you're still struggling, I will breathe as much ease and grace for you as I can. Take one more breath. And go ahead and remove the block from underneath you if you're using a block. The hips slowly come back down towards the floor. Good. Pause for a breath or two. And then draw the right knee in towards your chest. Extend the left leg down to the floor. Straight leg. Hold behind the right thigh. Extend that heel up towards the sky. So you're holding the thigh. Extend your right heel up. Good. Nice, you guys. Keep pressing that thigh into your hand so that you have this, again, resistance to find a more powerful engagement of your leg from your pelvis. Good. And then keep holding the thigh, supporting it with your left hand. Stretch your right arm out wide and start to let that right leg come across your body over to the left. So a straight-legged twist, but only let it come parallel with your hip. So don't let it come further than that. Good. And reach out through that right side rib cage. Good. Yeah, if using the hand to support the thigh doesn't make any sense, your knee is slightly bent, that's okay. But try and keep that leg in line with your hip so it requires a little bit more muscular awareness and reach through that right side. Good. So you're reaching back through your ribs. That creates the twist. Nice. Good. And then bend that right knee, please. Drop it all the way down to the floor into the twist. Let your shoulder fly up and take that right arm up over your ear instead of reaching out wide. So your knee comes all the way down to the floor and your arm comes up over your ear. So if your shoulder's not touching the floor anymore, don't worry about it. Just reach through your side waist and draw the top of that right hip down towards your left heel. So instead of hiking it up, hike it down. Good. Nice, Sanju. Good, Heidi. And then slowly come back to center, please. All the way back to your back, hugging the right knee in. Good. And then send the right leg down to the floor. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. Squeeze. And hold behind the thigh. Extend your left heel up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Good. And so that pressing back means that you're moving the top of your thigh away from your low belly. And you're drawing your low belly down and wide away from your thigh. So again, this is what helps support the openness of your back, your pelvis in this position. It's not just about your lower leg or your upper leg, sorry. Everything's weird when you're on your back. Good. And that leg that's on the ground is super active as well. Nice, Ralph. Okay, continue to support that thigh with your right hand. Take your left arm out wide to the left and press down. So you're keeping that left rib cage rooted as much as you can. Start to let the left thigh go out to over the body to the right. So a straight-legged twist. Good. And you can let your pelvis twist, absolutely, but don't let that thigh go lower than hip height. So don't drop it down to the floor. Good. And again, if you can hike that hip away from your shoulder, do it. Feels impossible in this position, stay where you are. And reach through that left rib cage. So again, almost more focus on, can I reach down and wide through my ribs? And I'm not obsessing about that incredible sensation that's happening on my left hip and thigh. Again, incredible can be interpreted so many ways. It's a magnificent thing to feel. Whether we consider it positive or negative, it is a magnificent thing to feel. Good. Bend that left knee, please. Drop the knee all the way down to the floor into the twist. Stretch your left arm up over your ear instead of reaching out to the side. Good. So again, don't worry about the shoulder finding the floor. You can still let it relax backwards, but if it doesn't touch, no problem. Keep your knee resting on the floor and just breathe long. Armpit to hip, fingertips to tailbone. Good. And then slowly bring yourself back to center, please. Squeeze that left knee in towards your chest. Bring the right knee in as well. Hug. And then take the right thigh on top of the left, stacking the knees. Separate your feet. Reach for your ankles or your shins. Drawing the knees in towards your chest, pressing down and wide through the lower back, relaxing your shoulders. Good. And if you're pulling your feet super, super wide apart here and your knees are no longer really stacked together, don't take your feet so wide and instead widen your sit bones. So squeeze your feet back towards each other a little bit so your knees start to angle inward again, because that's the rotation on the thigh. And then keep your low back anchored to the floor, your sit bones wide. And then any amount of a little bit of pushing wide of the feet is great. But if you're just pulling on your feet, then you're yanking on your knees and your hips are going to stay exactly as they are. Then what are we doing if our hips are just going to stay the way they are? Good. Slowly release, please. Squeeze the knees into the chest for a breath. And then switch sides, left thigh over top of right. Good. Again, so start out drawing the knees in towards each other. So that internal rotation, almost like it's eagle instead of Gomukhasana. So it's a drawing in. And then press down and wide through your lower back. So you're really getting that sensation of my sit bones going wide, like you're trying to pull your butt wider, if that makes sense. Good. And then once you've established that, then any little bit that you can push your feet wide is going to help the angle of the legs. But if your feet are going wide and it's pulling your knees outward, you're losing the integrity of your hip rotation. So make sure that from hip to knee, everything is rotating inward towards the center of the body. Then the feet can go wide. Good. And then slowly release, please, hugging the knees in towards the chest. Bring your forehead up to meet your knees. Hug yourself like you mean it. There you go. And then slowly release, extending the legs out in front of you, arms alongside you, palms up. Nice, Debbie. I haven't seen your face all class. There you are. And let yourself fall into a breath. It's full of the possibility, full of the potential for you to find peace, happiness, where the things that are defined as your suffering no longer define who you are or what your life is about. Breathe that in and breathe it out. Very gently bring the awareness back to the breath. Let your body begin to stretch and move, whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest and roll to your right side. And taking a moment before you begin to push the floor away, come back to an upright seated position. And bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. Anjali Mudra, we often say it's translated as how may I serve? And it's translated that way, right? Hands at heart center is that it's not how may I serve as a path of work, as a hardship. If I just work hard enough in this world, it'll be what I want it to be. But it's a practice of if my heart becomes open enough, how may my heart serve you? How may my heart and my mind help to create a world where not only am I able to find my way, but you're able to find yours? That this is the service that we're asked to be in as yogis. And yes, absolutely, in any ways out in the world that you feel called to service, do it. But don't do it because you think it's going to make you feel better or it's going to get you somewhere. If your heart is really open, that's the greatest service that you have to you and to others. So you do your practice to get you there to that place where you are so open, so vulnerable, and so willing to say that this breath is not just for me, but it's for you. And it's for all of the yous, even the creatures that, you know, you don't prefer to hang out with, that you don't understand, they don't make sense to you. You think you're not at all connected to, you are. So we hold this as our practice, that my heart gets bigger, so it holds you in it. And that if that's the state that I'm in, then I am always in service. And we find that independently in our lives, but we keep our minds, our attention on that togetherness. And that's how we recreate the world where there's freedom, not just for you, but for me, for everyone, all beings. So you just get your heart a little bit more open, a little bigger. We'll be independent together. We'll close with the sound of Om, deep breath. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste. Thank you guys so much for coming out this morning, for dealing with the a little bit of a timing issue. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. We will see you soon. Oh, hey, so the new stuff, you know, Josh is doing Kirtan every Thursday night in studio live if you want to be part of that. But on Tuesdays, his butterfly talks he's bringing in guest speakers on all sorts of topics. So if you have questions that you've ever wanted to ask your yoga teachers or about anything, send them to us, either email Cheryl or put them up on the Facebook page, however you'd like to. Send them to me, whatever. But, you know, the idea is for it to be a community sort of discussion. So any questions or topics or ideas that you have that you'd like to see, send them in. Okay, it's like calling the radio back in the day. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So have a great day, everybody. Happy 4th. Go celebrate, have fun, enjoy. Mwah.